Hey guys, how's it going? Matt from Foul Ball Productions here. Thank you so much for joining me today. Hope that you're doing well because I'm doing phenomenally. Thank you very much. This is the 91st episode of the Mfer podcast. I thank you for joining me for it. I hope you had a wonderful weekend. I had a wonderful weekend. Quite golf filled. I will leave it out. It turns out that this isn't a fling. This is a full-blown romance. This is a full-blown, I'm obsessed. I found the one. Her name is Golf. Yes. It was a fun weekend. I also, what's up, Senshin Dildo? Hello, sir. Good to see you, sir. I've also started decorating for Christmas, as you can see. I kind of decorated the office a little bit here with some new Christmas lights and some Christmas decorations. Got the go the other way. It's a Wonderful Life poster and a stocking and Santa. It's that festive time of year, folks. It's that festive time of year. I do love Christmas so much. Christmas brings me joy. It really does. It's like one of those things. I bust out all my Christmas decorations, and I feel happy. I feel good. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's just the years of positive memories or the spirit of Christ. I don't know, but there's something about the Christmas time of year that I absolutely adore. So very much. Golf? Honky? Yeah, what can I say? It's true. No lies detected. I don't know what happened. I got obsessed. I love it. It's a fun game. Fun game. And I didn't like it when I was a kid. I could care less to play golf at all. I was just like, I don't know. This is tedious. It's hard. And then there's just something clicked. I don't know. Turned 40, golf clubs show up at your house. You don't even know how they got there. You don't even know why. There they are. That'll happen to you someday, Senshin Dildo, or it already has. We never have determined your age. We may never get down to the bottom of that, but yeah. So got a lot to talk about today. Got some fun Israel news. Got some Barry Weiss looking like a total ass. We've got APAC. We got this whole thing going on with X, where the location services of the accounts went active, went live. Going to talk about that. Trump and Mamdani. How do you say it? Mamdani. I think that's it. Zohran Mamdani having a little bit of a love affair. And the whole thing. Lots of stuff going on. Lots of stuff to talk about. So I guess we can get into some of it. Before we do, I got a little fired up before this stream. Got a little heated before this was off and popping. I was listening to this stream. What is the name of it? You know what? I'll even pull up a clip because I was like, that has got to be some of the dumbest shit I've ever heard. It was it's a podcast that shows up in my YouTube algorithm that I normally like. I think like they're pretty interesting, and then I realized today, they're fucking socialists. I was like, oh no, how boring and stupid. I was like, oh God. And they just made one of the stupidest arguments. Okay. They were just making the dumbest argument about, I guess Tucker Carlson was on Sean Ryan's show. Do you know who that is? Essentially, no golf for me. I'm becoming a bit too obsessed with guns, though. Lol. That's funny. My buddy Connor could not join me at the driving range today because he was on the gun range, like a real man should, on the old driving range while I was, or on the gun range while I was driving. But yeah, I haven't fired my gun in so long, to be completely honest. It just sits there in my nightstand, just waiting in vain to be used. But it's a good gun. It's got a good heart. That pistol, that 9mm, I absolutely love it. Yeah. So this podcast called Due Dissidents. Now, I've heard some clips. I've heard a few of their episodes, and I thought, oh, these guys are they're pretty cool. I kind of like what they have to say. And then I realized, oh no. So they were talking about Tucker Carlson and Sean Ryan's podcast. So Sean Ryan is this conservative guy. I guess he's a former Navy SEAL. I never really responded to him, but he never really bothered me. But I was watching some of this podcast. I think I watched about 30 minutes of it, and I was like, all right, I'm moving on. And they were talking about one of these clips that, like, I guess came out of the podcast. Yeah, I don't know. I guess he's benign. he's not really all that fascinating to me, but whatever. He doesn't bother me. I don't think he's like super pro-Israel, so that's a positive. But they were just talking about this clip, and let me just scrub to it real quick because I wasn't expecting to talk about it, but it just made me so annoyed. Okay, yeah, I think this is it. So he's talking about Tucker's kind of like transformation into like a different kind of speaker. And what he's been saying a lot about Israel, and he's saying a lot about different leaders and just kind of who he is as a guy. Now, these two guys on the left are the hosts of the show. And like I said, up until today, I thought they were pretty cool. But this argument that they go on to make,
yet, right? Won't name that name yet, right? Just the way it took Marjorie Taylor Greene a long time to name Donald Trump, right? So he won't say, he'll say, yeah, I'm not a socialist, I'm not from Mamdani, but I don't want your strip malls, and I don't want you turning our women into prostitutes on OnlyFans. Well, if OnlyFans is not a symptom of end stage capitalism, I don't know what is. Because
before they even make their argument, once anyone starts talking in these terms, like there are certain earmarks of ideologically possessed people that you immediately know. It's like the pronouns in the bio, opinion dismissed thing. Like I was arguing with somebody today on Twitter, as I oft do. I enjoy arguing on Twitter. I think it's fun. But there was someone talking about like the comedian Jeff Dye and George Carlin. And I had just watched this video about George Carlin, and like it's aptly titled George Carlin, the First Redditor, and just how lukewarm, like college girl, like white people are bad and like Christianity's like bad and like capitalism's like bad. Like his points of view, not his comedy necessarily, but just who he is as a dude, it was such banal shit. So I posted like a video link to that and got into it with this guy in the comment. And he started saying things like, well, comedy's not about punching down. And as soon as you hear that, as soon as you hear someone say comedy's not about punching down, you're just like, all right, that's it. We're done. You can't like, no, it's like liberal detected, like, no, we're done, because this isn't a rational conversation. We're talking about comedy. We're talking about, political opinions. Once you have a framework, this rigid framework about something like entertainment, and it has to be XY. It's like the reason you think it has to be XY is because you're an activist, because your point of view, your opinions are captured. And that's just like, as soon as these guys say, oh, if that's not a symptom of end stage capitalism or late stage capitalism, you're just like, oh boy, here we go. So let's they can't see it's both. It's capitalism and their commie shit. I am with you. That's my opinion. Somehow in this new political landscape, like, with like Nick Fuentes, shoe on head, a lot of people, and also whatever's going on with the Trump administration, somehow everyone's lost sight of the fact that we don't have a free market in the sense of like letting just businesses compete. They don't have government intervention. They don't have government help. They just compete. Like, we haven't had that for so fucking long. And everyone's just like, well, I guess that's what we have now. And it's like, that is no. Well, how did libertarians lose this argument? Like, what happened to everyone's like Doge and all that energy from just a few months ago? All gone, all gone. So let's just hear this guy's argument, which I just was firing me up right at the beginning of this show.
OnlyFans is a perfect example of people selling the only thing they have left to own, which is their own skin, right? The reason OnlyFans is so successful is because people have nothing left to sell. So if you give people...
Does anyone with a fucking brain think that's what's going on? Does anyone who's a rational observer of reality think that's what's going on? That these women, if not for OnlyFans, would be digging out of the dumpsters to find an old Apple core to survive. But lo and behold, someone managed to give all these women an opportunity to sell the only thing they have left. We've just lived through a decade of girl boss propaganda, colleges way more favoring women, the workplace to all of our detriment, favoring women above all. All that stuff they talk about, adult daycare, those like Indeed.com jobs that are nothing. They show up and contribute nothing and slip through and get paid six figures. What about all that? That's all that's all gone now. You think that's the situation? These women, they have no other options. They have nothing else they can sell. They must sell their bodies. What are you talking about, dude? What are you observing around you? No. No. What happened was it's incredibly lucrative. And there's absolutely no barrier to entry. You just need to be a girl. That's it. And if you hit, and you can make millions. Who's that Sophie Rain woman? She's like worth like 40 or 50 million dollars. And then you couple the fact that this is a elevator, like a glass gilded diamond elevator to wealth. And we got rid of the traditional social boundaries like shame, like slut shaming, like looking down on women who do that, not privately, like not on like a stream of this size where we're just with me and you, we all agree. No, I mean on societal level, the societal guidelines that like stop women from behaving like whores. We destroyed all that. So you take these things and you combine them, and that's how we end up with an OnlyFans epidemic. Oh, no. What happened was that's all they have left to sell. Shut up. Unbelievable. Essentially Diddle. A dirty secret is free market is a delusion. Always was. Governments and big business will always jerk each other off. I guess I got to do more research on this very subject because I don't think that that's true. So are the libertarians as delusional as socialists, that they're just like, selling a fantasy? I don't think it's true, but because I think it's just been a time. Like, I think you made the argument last week that the government just slowly creeps larger and larger. And it's just the very nature of the beast. And, that very well may be the case if you kind of have like the framework that we have. I don't know. That's probably for someone who knows more about this than me. I'd like to believe that that's not the case, that we could accomplish some kind of a free market, that we could roll back regulations and we could shrink the size of the government, that it is possible, that we could get back to like a truly free market where you literally just have to, succeed or fail on the merit of the quality of the product that you or service you provide. And if the public don't like it, tough shit. Maybe that's delusional. And Lord knows, I had the same hope for Donald Trump, and that's blown up in my face. So I don't know. Maybe I'm just an optimist, Cinchin Diddle. Maybe I'm just, I'm a glass is half full kind of guy. The mezcal is half full kind of guy. I don't know. I can't doom. Not that you're dooming. I just want to believe. I want to believe. Hello, Poker Race 6666. Women want easy money without work. Everybody does. I mean, that's true about women, but everybody, who's going to say no? Who's going to say, listen, young man, I'll give you $10 million right now, or you can spend the next 20 years of your life and maybe you'll make that much money if you do everything right and guarantee it. And you pick a career that's incredibly lucrative. Like, everybody would take the money. This is just not an option available to us. If it was, you'd probably see a lot of male OnlyFans creators. It's just not an option that's available to us. And of course they do. Why wouldn't they? But it's bad. And that, that's the thing too, is like, as much as slut shaming is important, we have to go back. We have to simp shame too. We need to make sure that men aren't feeding into this system as well. It needs to be just as shamed and looked down upon, I think, as just being the slut, because it's like there's a two-way street. If no one's paying, I wonder who all these like OnlyFans simps are. I wonder, like, are they foreign? Right? Are they from like a different, like, is it just a different culture where they come from? Because it's like, I'd like to believe that none of my friends have like an active OnlyFans subscription. Maybe once in a while, you get caught up while you're, late night, as it were. You get a little caught up, and then you spend a few bucks you wish you didn't spend. Kind of like being in a strip club. When you're done with the strip club, you're like, why did I do that? That was wasted money. Maybe that happens every once in a while, but like an active OnlyFans subscription, that's insane. I'd like to believe that none of my friends do, but maybe they do. But I think if you do, like, I think we need to make that like shameworthy again. We need to shame that just as much as slut shaming. Low spec. So dude just said women are useless except for their bodies. No, I think what he's saying is so absurd that society has gotten so captured by corporations and big government, or corrupt big government, because socialists want the biggest government. So somehow when they implement their big government solution, that'll solve all these government corruption problems. And they never explain how, but that's just, it'll happen. No, I think it's that, it's just been, the system has just been wrung out so much and so exploited and destroyed that there's just, this is it. That's all they have left. That's literally the last good they have to sell. What are you fucking talking about, dude? What are you talking about? That is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Like, if it was like, especially just because of how much, and I just said this, but how much the society has been set up to serve women and give them career opportunities and give them a million different safety nets and ways out. And this guy's like, the only thing they have left to sell. I hate these false dichotomies that socialists make. Is the most upsetting thing. It's just like, there's more than one explanation for that, dude. And it's not just, that's why we need to make the government provide us with everything. Politicians and industrialists went to the same colleges. Their kids go to the same colleges. Good luck preventing that incestuous networking. Well, there's a young man, I don't know if you've heard of him, a young man named Nicholas J. Fuentes. He has a plan for that. He has a plan. He actually, I think he's starting a nonprofit, like a 501c nonprofit, like for political education and resources. And he's like really determined to infiltrate government and change it and take it back. So I don't know. Maybe the Groypers of the future, Sentient Dildo. I don't really know. Centrally planned OnlyFans model, comrade. Exactly. Yeah. And in the future, women will be OnlyFans whores for the people, and then we'll be doing just fine. Hello, Eck Thomason, E. Clay. I remember you, brother. How you doing, man? Good to see you. All right. So that was just a little aside. I wasn't planning on talking about that. I just threw that in there because I was like watching it and I'm ranting to no one. And I'm like, wait a minute, I have a show. It's not a big show. It's not a particularly large audience, but there are people here, or there will potentially be more in the future. So let me just speak my mind on that show. And that's exactly what I did. Okay. You know what? Speaking of Nick Fuentes, he had some interesting things to say about Marjorie Taylor Greene getting fired. Not getting fired. That's the wrong. I was just distracted there for a second. Not getting fired. Resigning out of nowhere. She just had this huge push, right? Marjorie Taylor Greene. I made a few videos about her. I didn't really know much about her up until recently. I was like, oh shit, this chick's pretty based, I thought she was like the kooky, they control the weather lady. And she was saying some pretty badass stuff. Did like a good interview with Tim Dillon. You can see my video on the subject if you're curious. And I was like, wow, this one's really interesting. And then she gets behind Thomas Massie, and they, push all the way forward despite Trump's best efforts to expose what they can about the Epstein files, and we'll see whatever that materializes into. But it was a huge victory, and it was on the strength of like her, Massie, and a few other politicians. Excuse me. And then she just quits. Then she just resigns out of nowhere. I didn't even know what to make about it. I read her resignation letter, and it was pretty vague. She didn't really cite any particular reason. I mean, she mentioned the thing that Trump had singled her out and treated her like shit, which I thought was pretty low, even for Trump. I don't know what she did to deserve such harassment, but it happened. So it was a big thing. So I was listening to Fuentes talk about Marjorie Taylor Greene's firing, and he had some interesting things to say about it. So let's just talk about that real quick. Okay, hold on. I think this is She said some dumb stuff. This is a low spec. She said some dumb stuff, but I liked her spunk before. I thought she was cool. I liked her too. She definitely said some dumb shit, but I can forgive that. She just seemed base. Like, she seemed like, my impression was she'd hung around and was kind of like, wait a minute, this is a bunch of bullshit. You guys actually aren't living up to the promises that you ran on, that we've been selling the people on. Like, what is the plan for the future of these people? It's like, it can't just all be, we're just doing whatever Israel wants, right? Like, that can't possibly be what MAGA's about. And yeah, it looks like it kind of is, actually. I don't disagree with a lot of what she said, resignation, but how did she get rich? Now, that is a good question. That's a great question, Losbeck. And it does. No, she definitely, I looked into this. She definitely made some really, really well-timed stock trades that just happened to coincide with legislation that made those trades quite lucrative. So, yes, most likely guilty of some kind of insider trading. Now, that's just my opinion. That's just the facts that I collected. You know, it's conjecture. I'm not accusing her or anything. Please don't fucking sue me, MTG. What up, Zax? Hello, sir. But from what I saw, there were some very conveniently timed trades. But I don't think that has anything to do with it, personally. Such a dildo. I'm suspicious of based whammons. Not sure that specimen can exist. Yeah, it's so funny. I remember, like, probably in the beginning, like the early on of this next Trump administration, there were some women going a little crazy. I won't name names, but you know, they're around. And I was just like, we didn't listen to women when it was liberal shit. Why the hell would we listen to women when it's conservative shit? You're not in charge of these things. You know what I mean? Like, you want to hang out, say funny stuff and chill, that's fine. But you're not the thought leaders. All due respect, ladies. But I mean, you're just not. You know, there's very few who I'm like, oh, that's an innovative thought. You know, it happens on occasion, but it's pretty rare. So, yeah. But they can be good foot soldiers, right? They can be good allies, you know? So, I don't know. I understand your suspicions, though. I hear you. All right, let's this is what Nick Fuentes had to say about MTG.
Another explanation is, who knows, maybe they got something on her. Maybe she's afraid. Maybe they have blackmail on her. Maybe they have something, because she's not the first person to leave under mysterious circumstances. And she's also not the first person to leave under mysterious circumstances who became a problem for MAGA Inc. Matt Gaetz comes to mind. Do you remember the tale of Matt Gaetz? Matt Gaetz led the coup against Kevin McCarthy in September 2023.
May I just say, as I've been watching more of Nick Fuentes, actually watching his show, and not just his interviews, he does fantastic interviews. He just did one yesterday with this kid, Neil something. I don't know his name, but he's got 3.5 million subscribers somehow. But he's very good. He's very smart. But Nick does great interviews. But this fucking guy knows so much about politics and the way politics go, like the actual game of holding power, of leveraging power, of the deals and stuff. It's amazing what his insight on this stuff is. It kind of blows my mind, because I don't really listen to a lot of people who talk about politics. It's kind of like the majority of the content I consume, and I consume a lot of it. I don't really hear anyone else talking in the terms that he talks, that Nick does. Not to say that there aren't smart other people, like, Dave Smith is a really smart guy. Carl Benjamin's a really smart guy. Those guys talk about it, but I think they talk mostly about the public policies that happen, the results, what they think of them, the characters involved. But I don't really hear anyone talking about the actual nuts and bolts, like the day-to-day, how these things actually go down. Like I hear Nick Fuentes talk about it, and I just find it absolutely fascinating. And this clip, I think he does, these streams are so long, but he does, I think this is what he's talking about here.
When Kevin McCarthy, or rather when Matt Gaetz and the MAGA caucus shut down the government, Kevin McCarthy worked with the Democrats to open the government back up. So Matt Gaetz, with a single vote, initiated a vote of no confidence. Kevin McCarthy lost. He was overthrown and he was forced to resign. His own party took the speakership from him. Matt Gaetz led the charge. Kevin McCarthy resigned. After that, the Republican Party had it out for Matt Gaetz. They started to investigate him. They talked about releasing damning evidence about maybe past sexual or romantic relationships. And so in 2024, after Trump won the election, Matt Gaetz was nominated for Attorney General. He was never going to get the votes for this. I don't know if it was ever serious. It became clear he would not get the votes. He would not be confirmed in the Senate. There was talk that the blackmail would be dumped on him. And so he withdrew himself from consideration and then dropped out of Congress. So he won re-election in 24.
Okay, I probably should have picked this clip a little bit more closely. This is sort of a big chunk of what he was talking about with MTG. But you know what? To this end, I want to relay something that I heard Nick say, because it's like, you know, a lot of you guys watching are Trump supporters. You know, I don't know if I am anymore, but I certainly was in the last election. There's no question about that. I remember that Nick Fuentes, like my brother-in-law, he's like a groiper, and like a you know, like I remember Nick Fuentes was like, no, don't vote for Trump. This, and I was just like, what is this? This is like a fucking psyop. Like, what are you talking about? And I heard him explain it on a podcast, and I think I'm going to include this in a video I'm working on. But he essentially was saying, it's like, yeah, Trump might be marginally better than Kamala Harris, but what ends up with that happening, just marginally better, is that Trump now validates the status quo. He doesn't fix these problems, as we're seeing, right? The government's bigger than ever. Our deficit's bigger than ever. Doge has just been dissolved, I heard like the other day. So it's like, well, we're not gutting the government. We're certainly not gutting support for Israel. We're certainly not working for what the people want, it appears, as far as I can tell, at least at this moment. And so what he was saying was like, no, obviously it's not that he wants Kamala, but Kamala would have done such an abysmal job, and that the public would have basically, you know, so many people wouldn't even have thought that her presidency was legitimate, that it would have broken down to such a dramatic degree that would have been a good opportunity to actually implement real change in the government. And I was like, oh, well, that makes a lot more sense. Like, that perspective is pretty fucking interesting. Hello, Nadia. What is going on? Good to see you, madam. How are you? Central Ditto. That's because you've not found your way to the truly based stuff. Too much time spent listening to deluded centrist tars. Keep going further. Well, if you have any recommendations, you know, you can let me know. I know you claim you're not on Twitter, but I don't believe you. But yeah, I mean, look, possibly. I'm not that smart, Sinjandodo. I think we've established that. I think we've cleared that up. That is the case. That I'm a fucking pedestrian in this whole world. But I do find it absolutely fascinating, and I would love to. Yeah, I'd love to keep learning more. E. Clay Thomas, and nobody is perfect. The best you can ever hope for is the lesser of two evils. I think he's saying that's just, we can't settle for that any longer. That's been the, I think that's what he's trying to get at. I don't know. Like I said, a lot of this is above my pay grade, but just when I heard him explain that, and then you see the results of it, it's like, well, I mean, you can't argue with a lot of what he's saying. Zach says, Matt has a Kamala Harris poster on his ceiling and I support it. But I was looking at it like there's just the dichotomy. It's just Trump or Kamala. And it's like, it's obviously not Kamala. But I understand his logic. I don't know if I agree with it, but I understand his logic. I thought you were Nick's number one, Matt. Well, you know, I'm learning to appreciate the man. I think he's got a very bad rap. I think he's quite fucking smart and insightful. But yeah, damn your fingers. Yeah, fuck them. Fuck your fingers, Nadia.
Or was submitted as a nominee for Attorney General, withdrew, and then dropped out and would not take office after his reelection in 24, which was not necessary. He didn't have to do that. And a lot of people said maybe they had blackmail on him.
Senjadillo is saying, get your mind out of the red-blue frame that's been ceded to us plebs from the top to control us. Was it just the Jews and the goys now? Is that the framework I should be working in, Senjadillo? No, I think you're right. I think you're right. It's complicated. It's very complicated. I do think you're right. I don't think it should be red or blue. I think that's stupid, and it's really just shifting power to one group of bureaucratic jerk-offs to another group of bureaucratic jerk-offs, and none of them have your interests, and they serve other masters, and they're taking our country and they're destroying it for their whoever's ends. I don't even know if it's their own. It's like the people who pull their strings, it seems. I used to kind of believed in Trump. I did. And I still think, at the end of this, we could get some good out of it. I don't really know anymore, but I did believe in Trump, and I did think that he was actually different. I guess a lot of people saw ahead of it. Nick Fuentes being one, my buddy Michael being another. Like but I just wasn't keyed into how influential Israel was in our politics. It's just not something I was aware of. And people saw the writing on the wall, and they're like, no, this is not going to be what you think it is. It's going to be this. It's going to be that. And it seems that they were right. I was not. But I guess it's just like, maybe you got to find like the people that believe. I don't know what I'm saying here. Once you get out of it, you have more chance at seeing it for what it is. Fair. I mean, I think that's fair. I guess that's fair, because I mean, you just oscillate back and forth, right? Oh, well, no, it's this Democrat. He seems like a good guy. Oh, he didn't do a great job. I think this Republican, I think he's going to be a good guy. Oh, he didn't do a great job either. Oh, I think this Democrat, he might be a good job. And you just pass the ball and get absolutely nothing done. But I still say, and I still mean this. Listen, don't forget where we came from just a short while ago. And I'm not trying to be like a delusional, running cover for bullshit, political guy. I'm not. But just this is something that we forget where we just were so short time ago. This article was in the Daily Mail today. Biological male is stripped of his title as world's strongest woman after she failed to tell competition bosses that she was transgender. Okay, trans sports, whatever. Boomer topic, obviously. But the thing is, maybe a year ago, maybe 18 months ago, this would not be biological male stripped of title. This would be bigots online, the radical right discriminates against trans and tweeting and blah, blah, fucking blah. Like, I'm not trying to say settle for less, but I am saying, remember where we just came from. Remember how fucking bad things got. And for better or worse, this Trump administration voting, whether it's effective as the result that we want it to be or not, it has shifted the culture. It has shifted people's perspective. It has validated conservative values, or even just normalcy, or at the very, very least, invalidated everything on the crazy left woke side, and made it like completely socially acceptable to be like, you're fucking crazy. You're wrong about everything. And we're not interested. Like, I think we had been a captive. I don't know what's going on in Europe, Senjadillo. I'm sure you guys don't really give a shit. But like, we have been a captive people by a very, organized, militant minority of radicals that, maybe Nick's not right. Like, maybe if Trump didn't win, we get, the bleakest possible future. I mean, I don't think we get the free speech developing. I think it gets worse. I think Kamala gets her ministry of truth. I think it's like, you're going to start getting fines for talking out about certain things online. I don't know, but I just think we need to accept and be grateful for the fact that the story here is that this person is stripped of their of their title and not right-wing Nazis online, won't acknowledge biological fucking blah, fucking trans bullshit blah. That's important to remember too. Progressives driving the speed limit. Okay, fine. I understand that point. I do, but I still think it's like, I don't know, like it could get worse, and things have actually improved. The quality of culture, the fact that it's everyone's like, shut up. We're not into your bullshit anymore. That changed. And I think that all got validated with Donald Trump being the president. That's my personal opinion. Maybe I'm naive. Maybe I'm short-sighted. Maybe I'm just a fucking idiot. But I'm pretty sure that is a legitimate point of view. Such a little conservative free speech, unless you talk about your greatest ally. Yeah. Also that. Yeah, I mean, that's also fair too. I don't know. It's hard, man. It's a tough one to go on. I still think that this is ultimately better, but it is a little scary. It is a little freaky to when you're just like, you deported people for criticizing a genocide? I feel like the genocide is pretty bad. I feel like it can be criticized, and that should be okay. All right, let's move on to the story of the day. The N-word lady. No. Zax, your boy. When did this ever get put on me? How the fuck am I a Hassan fan? That guy, that guy is just, whenever I hear, even when I see someone like debunking him, I'm like, ugh. I don't like being reminded he's alive, man. He is just a black hole of positive energy, of logic. He's just such a fucking cunt. I can't stand that guy. Yeah, I'm sure trigonometry sucks, dude. They're gay as hell. Because Constantine is dumb. Constantine masquerades like an intelligent person. He is a dumb person. He is not smart. I have read his writing. It is bullshit. His arguments are false dichotomies. He talks in the ways of just like, well, if the United States isn't the world empire, China is going to be. It's like, or Europe could do their job to like take care of that part of the world. That's an option too. You know what I mean? Like that also could happen. You could probably stop housing millions of migrants all over Germany and England and France, and defend yourselves. That exists as an option as well. It's just like, well, no, you got to do it. It's like, we don't have to do it at all, big guy. That guy's a retard. Said LMAO, Zax. Konstantin Gavechin is a honky muppet. What a bunch of tards. They are so stupid. They are really, really stupid. It doesn't take much intelligence to dunk on woke college retards. No, it does not. No, in fact, I think it takes less, like a lower amount of intelligence to even do it, really, at this point. Like I said, I will still stand and argue that like in 2015, 2016, that was good content. We kind of needed that because that tyranny was unbroken. And those were people that were just, their ideas were running wild all over everything. And it was fun to see them get their just desserts, But that was 10 years ago. Okay, it's time to move on. Okay, so we'll talk about the story of the day. Okay, so this phenomenon happened on X. I guess, Elon's one of those guys. He's Trumpy this way, where he hears an idea and then he just does it. The way that he ended up buying Twitter, right? Elon, you should buy Twitter. He's like, oh, how much? How much? And then I guess I'll buy it. And then he buys it, and he did, which still one of the most significant things that's ever happened in political discourse in the history of the world. Like, not even exaggerating. There's 100% changed the way we communicate. Like, there's no way. I do not believe we would be at this sort of universal awakening that fucking Israel's bullshit and their power is far overreaching and is destroying the Western world. without X. I don't think we get there without that free exchange of information. But anyway, so on X they released. So Elon gets this new idea, like, hey Elon, there's a bunch of foreign bots on your platform. You know what you should do? We should do is, you should be able to put like ping their location in their profile, like where they're tweeting from, what country, and like where they started with the App Store. So they did it. And, the results, I think, were comedic. I mean, that's why I chose today's thumbnail. The basically that it was all like Indian dudes, Nigerian dudes, Pakistani dudes. And it was the thing is like, it was kind of universal. And the thing is, it's just like, yeah, like that wasn't exactly shocking to me. I think there were a few accounts lost in the sauce it was surprising, where they're just like, oh, I guess no one knew that guy was Indian. No one knew that girl was Nigerian or whatever. But it wasn't like to me like that big of a revelation. My question here. So let me just, I will address a tweet from this comedian Giannis Papas. He's very funny. If Papa Cotton was here, he would know who I was talking about. And he tweeted this out the other day. And this is in regards to the whole bots thing. Says, a lot of emotionally stunted, self-loathing people online are getting galvanized by bots, manipulated by cosplay psychopaths, and led around by self-aggrandizing grifters. They end up devoting their emotions to illusions, lies, and narcissists who don't care about them. I saith from the exit of platformeth, in the town squareth, heareth my voice. No comedy in that from comedian Giannis Papas. And I responded, people always say this, but never list a single example. It's essentially a nihilistic platitude. Point a finger or shut up. And I stand by this because I don't like, you just say that broadly with this sort of universal application. It's like, what are you talking about exactly, Giannis? What specifically have people been spun up by? What specific cause, point of view? Where exactly have the bots, taken control of an issue and just run people ragged, where if there were no bots, that wouldn't be the case? That's why, like, my question is, like, does this even really matter? Like, I guess it matters in the sense that it's like, it's clarifying who you're discussing it with, but who cares? Like, if you're taking your information, your opinions, or your insight from an anonymous account that's just, such and such based father for whatever, you're like, well, that's retarded. You don't know who that guy is anyway. You don't know what his agenda is. You know what his credentials are. Who is this retard? Who cares? So he's a Nigerian guy saying MAGA shit. Okay, I wasn't listening if I thought he was American. Who gives a shit what a random account online says, even if they have a lot of followers? So my point is this kind of like concept where it's just like, it's bots. It's bots. Well, it's also retards who are listening to the bots, right? If there were no bots, those retards would be thinking clearly. Like all of a sudden the discourse would just be perfectly wide open and crystal clear. Really? Is that what would happen? Like, I don't get it. Like, if a bot provides accurate, valid information, great. If it doesn't, I just don't even, everyone's kind of got these hot takes about it. Like, is it really that big of a deal? I don't understand. Like, what changes now? What now I want the borders open. Now I'm free. I want open borders because there were bots online who had also wanted to fucking close borders. Like, what does this mean? What happens? Oh, I guess Israel didn't lead us into wars, and I guess they aren't overly influential in our government. Oh, okay, because I got spun up online by bots and narcissists and grifters. What are you talking? Like, I never understand what this is like, and I hate these kinds of platitudes where you just, you spend time online, you're getting radical. There's people spinning. Who? About what? Be specific. Don't just say this broad thing. It's just like, everybody's special. It's like, shut up, man. That's worthless. What is this information? How does that help anybody? What are you talking about? Low spec. It's difficult to win an argument with an intelligent person. It's impossible to win an argument with a stupid person. I like that. That's a good quote. Absolutely. Don't know who's surprised by these results. NSA location being Tel Aviv is hilarious, though. Okay, so I think it was Homeland Security, but I can't get to the bottom of that. I knew you were on Twitter. I fucking knew it. You try to hide, man. I see you. I see you. I see you. Sent you dildo. Because why else would you know about that? So I did see that. I have some other things to say about this, but I what am I going to not talk about that? That maybe the Department of Homeland Security was based in Tel Aviv. Okay, so that was going around quite a bit. And there's evidence. I don't know how credible the evidence is, though. Right? I mean, because this is the type of thing that could spin people up, right? If this would be something a bot would do, right? Okay, so this is the first image. Joined in Israel, Homeland Security, DHS, Tel Aviv, Israel. Now the thing is, why does it say the city? Because no one else has said the city. It would just say the country. So it says Tel Aviv, and then the Israel App Store, and then it goes down. Oh, and then it comes back up. It was a glitch. It was a glitch, everybody. It was a glitch. It was a glitch. That's the timeline of events as I understand it. I don't know. I don't actually know. But there's also this. And it's hard to say. I just don't know if these are true. Like I don't want to believe that it's true. That's scary. But I also don't. Oh, wait, didn't I book? Oh, fuck, I didn't. Shit. Well, there was a video, but then X said it was manipulated. And then Grok said that those images were manipulated. Now, they would say that, right? So I don't know what to believe with that. I don't really know what to believe. But I will say this, and this was valid. And this was something that kind of made me think, like, does this matter? Like, does any of this fucking matter? So AIPAC puts out our best friend, our number one allies, biggest, not they're not a supporter. They're not an agent of a foreign government. Okay, these are just Americans. It's in the name, American. Okay, so don't have any questions about it. But AIPAC says they put this out. Founder of America First, AIPAC Tracker is self-proclaimed Marxist who lives in Germany. The group has accused pro-Israel politicians of bowing to foreign influence. So what? Who gives a shit? Are those AIPAC donations accurate? Then I don't care where this person is from. That's my point with, like, does this really matter? Like, there's this whole, oh, it's fucking, this person works for Germany. Like every single political faction after this came out just used that to validate their perspective. The pro-Israel people are like, oh, all the groypers are from fucking Nigeria. And then the liberals are like, see, all the MAGA accounts, they're from fucking Pakistan. And then all the Republicans are like, you see all these libs, they're from fucking Indonesia. Like, this didn't clear up anything. This did not make the discourse more transparent. It didn't make anyone's points more valid. It didn't really do anything. It just gave us some good memes. I don't think it changes a goddamn thing. Do you think anyone who's pro or anti-Israel changed their position based on the revelation of these bots? Do you think like some, burning crusader for like racial and social justice changed their mind because they found out that there's bots on Twitter? And conversely, do you think some MAGA dad, some guy who's watching, his country crumble around him and is desperately clinging on to Trump's, as the last savior, you think, whoa, well, there were bots online that were spitting me up with some of this stuff, so now I don't think about these things, now I don't care? No. Like, no one's changing their positions on anything with this revelation. Everyone's acting like it's like, well, this changes everything. What does it change? What's different now? We just don't listen to a few other accounts, or we make fun of them for being jeets? I mean, so what changes? I don't get it. Everyone's acting like this is it. It's like this is like the Twitter Epstein files. It's like, it's not. It's not that big of a fucking deal, I don't think. What's up, Papa? How you doing, man? Good to see you. True or not, it's funny. It's definitely funny. That's why I chose the meme for the thumbnail today with Homer Simpson, where like in the original meme, it's all he's in a lesbian bar and he doesn't know why, but then it's all a poo. That's funny. That's a good joke because it's all, English, Indians and Bangladeshi and, Nigerians, a lot of Nigerians. I guess we should have seen that coming, eggs on our face for that one. But it's like, nothing changes, man. Nothing. There's some big accounts no one's going to follow anymore. All right. We're still going right back to our battle lines. Nothing's changed. I don't know. That was just my take on it. I was just thinking about all this, and I was just like, everyone's making such a big deal. It's like, yeah, see? Yeah. Oh, the Kuipers are bots. Oh, the MAGA are bots. All the libs are bots. Everyone's saying the same thing. It's like, well, you're probably all wrong. They're probably just exploiting everyone's like kind of political fervor to make money, which are good on them. I don't know. I just don't care. I don't know. I just watched all this go down for days and I'm like, is this really what you guys really think this is some big giant victory? You think everything's different now? I don't see it. Okay. What do we got? All right. I got some Israel news. I got my little Israel corner. I should have like a little intro, I should have like a bumper, Israel news. Hang out with the Jews and see what's up with the Jews in the news. Israel news. That's my jingle. All right. So Barry Weiss. I don't know if you guys know who she is. I've been vaguely aware of this young lady, of this angel. She famously was, she started the Free Press, which I guess was like an online like Substack thing that's supposed to be nonpartisan journalism. Look, the corporate press has failed us. I'm Barry Weiss. I'm going to go do it correctly. And then, is just another Israel shill. And she famously was on Joe Rogan years ago and was talking about Tulsi Gabbard and called her a toady. I think she called her Putin's toady. And Joe was like, what's a toady? And she didn't know because she didn't really have an opinion on it. She just knew what she was supposed to say. And somehow that didn't end her career. I don't know how. I don't know why. Like if that's supposed to be a journalist and they don't even know what the word toady is. And by the way, I feel like toady's not really a hard word to figure out just based on context clues. It means like, I don't know, like a lackey, like someone that kind of follows along and just does whatever the leader says, like take a swing, Barry, you went to Columbia and, but she'd not. And she looked like a fucking retard. And yet somehow she still has a career. Well, her career got a whole lot better recently because Larry Ellison's son, so many players in this world. I can't keep track of it. Larry Ellison's son purchased Paramount and like CBS and also gave $150 million to young Barry Weiss to basically run the news over at CBS, and they're going to start a whole new era of nonpartisan journalism, for regular Americans, for just real conversations, no horse shit, no lies, and certainly no extremism. We're going to do it right, guys. And here's her plan. And she's going to share it with you. And I am going to let this young lady tell us why, how things have just gotten so out of hand and what her plans on how to fix that are. Let's go, Barry. Take it away, Toots.
Of us see the moment that we're in. And all of us see that the choices that it feels like we have sometimes, which is Hassan Piker and Tucker Carlson or Nick Fuentes.
Like, bitch. That's so fucking rude. That's being like, we only have like these dining options. We have like these overpriced like Michelin star restaurants, or we have, sludge from a drain pipe. Why are these the two options we have? It's like, you fucking skank. Comparing those two is insane. And that's the thing. Nobody ever considered Tucker Carlson extreme until he started criticizing Israel. Nobody. And if anyone did, it was like liberals because he was, for closed borders or whatever, or had like a vaguely conservative point of view. But he was a very right center, relatively moderate Republican voice. Like the idea that he's always been this extremist is crazy. And to put his name in the same sentence as Hassan Piker is like, you gutless fucking worm. Low spec. We already knew the internet was a bunch of bots. Dead internet theory, nothing burger. Well, yeah, but there's a lot of actual real people talking on Twitter too, and it's not like the discourse amongst all those people was just, okay, well, what do you think about this? And super cordial, and it was just these bots just crashing in with all these aggressive takes, and all the humans were just like, whoa, what's happened? It's nothing. It's absolutely nothing. Papa, wait, you changed your name again? Papa Algodon? How many names? What do you always have like an identity crisis? What is with all these changes? It exhausts me. I didn't change anything. This has been my @ for years. Oh, okay. He's a milquetoast civic nationalist. Oh, Dahara. Yeah. Yes. It's terrifying. This terrifying extremist. But anyway. Barry Weiss. That wasn't even what I wanted to talk about. I forgot she said that stupid shit.
Then, Andrew Tate, the kind of people that are rising in the podcast charts, those don't actually represent our values. And I don't think that they represent the values and the worldview of the vast majority of Americans. And so this is an opportunity to speak for the 75%, for the people that are on the center left and the center right that still believe in equality of opportunity, that still believe passionately in the American project, that still believe in all of the things that everyone in this room believes in, which...
Hold on one second. You think 75% of Americans passionately believe in the American project? Passionately? Like it burns inside them to see the vision of the founders realized? Really, Barry? I mean, come on. That's probably 25%. I'm sure people are patriotic, but that's that passion to see the American project. Shut up. I mean, come on. Repeal the 19th. Well, I'll tell you, this is a little different. Well, listen, we haven't heard her out yet, Pop. You got to let her, you got to let the lady speak. You got to be cordial, be a gentleman, Papa, and let the lady speak.
Which is liberty and freedom and individual responsibility. And in the most basic level, the right to know what is actually going on in the world, not the world as propagandists and ideologues imagine it to be, but what's
Does anyone else find that her saying that is just a little ironic with the background there? What's actually going on? Not that actually. The actually we want you to know about.
actually going on in the world and in your community, so you can make decisions about where to send your kids to school, about where to live, and about how to vote. That used to just be normal.
That was normal. Go back to the centrist status quo plantation, pleb. Such a dildo. What are you're inferring so much? You don't even know what she's gonna say yet. She hasn't even finished making her point. Okay. Listen, hear her out. I think you're going to like what she's got to say. You just let her finish,
And the goal of what we're trying to do at CBS is to get back to that normalcy. And I feel incredibly energized and enthusiastic because I think that is where the vast majority of Americans actually are.
Well,
oh, Ben agrees, does he? That's a good sign. He seems like a reasonable guy. He doesn't seem partisan at all. Is that not the funniest reveal? That was like a comedic. That was like the timing of that was like a sitcom writer made it. I don't think that's Ron DeSantis, right? I don't think so. Kind of looks like him, but no. I don't think he'd be allowed in. Unwashed goy.
So that articulation of that set of goals to speak into the lives of the 75%, how are you going to do that? What's your strategy for success?
So I think one of the problems is a lot of people have tried to do centrist news. I know this because I am like the target audience for those things. And the reason that they have all failed is it's like trying to force feed spinach down someone's throat, right? It's felt very like tofu, oatmeal. It's like centrist news is choosing the midpoint between every single topic. It's felt like an absence of charisma and identity. And
it's also horseshit. Centrism is horseshit. Like, you can be a centrist in the sense that you have right-wing beliefs and you have left-wing beliefs, and they sort of combine. But an issue, a particular issue, it doesn't have a centrist point of view. It either falls right or left, right? Like the border, there's no centrist position. There's either, you know, like an open, like it's basically where we've come down to open or closed. So that's left or right. I mean, there's really no, like, there's not a centrist point of view there. It's like, that's not a, you know, like there's no centrist. I guess there are some nuances, but I feel like most things come down to one of those two sides. Yeah. It's like, you can have a collection of these different beliefs. You know, you can believe in, like, you know, small government, but, you know, open border, whatever, you know, like there are different takes people have, and their collection of takes kind of makes up their political identity, but everything can't have a centrist take. I don't think. Maybe there are more than that. Maybe I'm just being like myopic, but I just don't think that that's accurate. Who's going to provide the charisma, Barry? Ben Shapiro? Well, look, she actually has some answers to that exact question, Dilda. So let's let her get to that.
I, you know, as nostalgic as people might be for an era in which 30 million Americans every night watched Walter Cronkite and saw him as the voice of truth, and I understand why they're nostalgic for that. We're not going back to that. So how
many people you think left alive are nostalgic for that? Walter Cronkite of the Vietnam era? I was born like 15 years after the Vietnam War ended. I'm 40. Like, do you think there's a lot of people left alive who are nostalgic for Walter Cronkite? I don't even think my dad is nostalgic for Walter Cronkite. I mean, in 1969, he was 13, 14. He wasn't like, you know, he wasn't like, you know, sitting at the eating the TV dinner on his tray table watching Walter Cronkite, be like, God, I wish we could get back to these days. He's in his 70s. He doesn't have this nostalgia she's talking about. Who are you talking about? Who is left in that demographic, Barry?
How do you build trust in a moment of unbelievably low trust in all of our public institutions, especially the mainstream press? I don't think it's by pretending like we can go back to having a view from nowhere. I think it's about who's in the room, right? I think it's about redrawing the lines of what falls in the 40-yard lines of acceptable debate and acceptable American politics and culture. And I don't mean that in like a censorious gatekeeping way. I mean having people that are clearly identifiably on the center left and on the center right in conversation with each other. And we've been doing.
Why? Why is that virtuous? Why do we need people only on the center left and only on the center right? How is that constructive? And who decides where they lie? Like when do you decide who, like, where does a libertarian fall on that? Where does Dave Smith fall on that? He's like a, you know, individual liberty, like closed borders, you know, small government libertarian. Like, where does that fall on the political spectrum? Is he allowed into this club of centrists? Like, what you're also leaving out is that centrists have centrist talking points, and you can't go outside that box. So just say you want to control the narrative. Like, stop trying to, I mean, she is so much saying that, but this whole framing as if, oh man, if only we could go back to the liars on TV, man, if only we could just have, you know, the slightly left and the slightly right liars lying to me again. Those were the best times. It was so fun. That was Essentially, times were simpler when we could just push our propaganda on TV and radio only. Yeah, when we controlled everything that went out, weren't things better? Aren't you nostalgic for that time when when the media was run differently? But this is great. This is probably my favorite part right here. So let's just give her the ramp to get into it.
The center, right, in conversation with each other. And we've been doing so much of this at the Free Press. I was in, where was I? Chicago. Last week, I think, I've lost all track of time, where Dana Lash, former spokeswoman from the NRA, was debating Alan Dershowitz on guns. Now, these are people that have wildly different opinions on the Second Amendment, and yet showing that they can have good
you know, why can't we go back to having Alan Dershowitz debate people? You know, Epstein's lawyer, Epstein's pal, who's like admitted to getting massages on the island with Jeffrey Epstein. That guy. Why can't we have him debate these issues on TV? Yeah, Alan Dershowitz. That was her argument. That's who she thinks is the center left person who should be talking. Centrists like Satan? You know, centrists like Stalin, like Genghis Khan. What the fuck are you talking about? And the other woman that she mentioned, whom I didn't know, but it didn't take very long to figure out who she was. Her name is Dana Loesch, is an American conservative political commentator, radio, television host, author, outspoken advocate for the Second Amendment, blah, 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 blah. Okay, Grok, what's her stance on Israel? Dana Loesch is a prominent conservative commentator and has expressed strong support for Israel, particularly in the context of its conflicts with Hamas, Iran, and other. Okay, so you want two Zionists to be the ones that tell us the information. Is that what you want, Barry? Okay, wow. Like, do you really think we're this fucking stupid? Do you actually think that? Like, I hope that you do, because you're going to continue to make these horrific mistakes all the time. Barry Weiss's solution to return to normalcy in the media is have Alan Dershowitz, who argued that we should lower the age of consent in the United States, was one of the most prominent smear critics of the Israel lobby. The book by Mearsheimer, has just done nothing but stand for Israel, completely, implicated in the Epstein situation. That's who she wants. And then she wants the other person they're going to discuss with is a staunchly pro-Israel conservative. I mean, you think, does she know this is recorded? Does she think this meeting is secret? Like, who are you trying to convince, man? Everyone in the room at this Jewish leadership conference, I would imagine, is quite pro-Zionist. So they're like, yeah, obviously get the narrative back on control. We're losing power. And anyone who's listening is just going to be like Alan Dershowitz. Like even the casual normie knows who that is. I couldn't believe my ears when I heard her say that. I couldn't believe it. I could not believe she said Alan Dershowitz. I was like, you know that they just voted to release the Epstein files last week? His name's in the news. He's a big part of that story. You think that's the name you should mention? You couldn't find anyone else to put in that spot? Alan Dershowitz? Were they ever good at running the media, or is that just a stereotype? This is mind-blowing, man. I couldn't believe that was her point. I was like, what? I don't think there's anything worth here, but there's only a few seconds left, so. No, wait. Clicking on the wrong screen.
Very passionate, very charismatic disagreement and still like each other at the end of the day. We think it's important. And so for me, it's always about the curation, like who's in the room, how are you showing centrist news, not as the absence of disagreement and the absence of charisma, but explicitly charismatic and disagreeable, and yet doing it in good faith. And the other way you do it is, by by being really honest with your audience. Like,
oh, honest. She's about honesty, folks. That's what Barry Weiss is about. Honesty. You gotta love that. That is just brilliant. And I will point out that her campaign for centrist, honest conversation is doing great. It's doing great. That very interview that she was talking about with Alan Dershowitz and that other woman, it's up on her. It's up on her YouTube channel. It's up on the Free Press, and it currently has 3,000 views after 15 hours. So obviously the public are ravenous for this conversation, and everyone's been asking, when is Dershowitz going to weigh in on the gun issue? I mean, we're just like, it's like, week after week, everything goes by and you're like, I know Israel and I know, Charlie Kirk and Nick Fuentes, but what I'm just dying to hear is, when is Dershowitz going to tell me what to think about guns? I mean, out of touch doesn't begin to describe, doesn't even approach them on like their state of mind with what's going on with the country. You'd think people that like are in media, I would assume, consume a strong degree of media every day, would be more aware. But no. Chat, how can we trick the herd? Well, it's not by promoting Alan Dershowitz, you retard. I couldn't believe that. I could not believe that. That was wow. I mean, mask off isn't even the word. If you know, it's a mask off moment. That's not even what that is. That's just utter capture and delusion. To say that, like, what are you trying to rehab his image? Like, get someone else about that banal debate anyway. The gun, like, who is even having that discussion right now? Like, stop it. Stop it. Unbelievable. Let me see. I had some other stories I wanted to talk about, but I don't really care. You know what? There's something else I'd rather talk about. I have some other things in case. I will just run down. There are these two stories that are related to Charlie Kirk. So there was that Oxford Union president guy. Do you remember him? After the Charlie Kirk assassination, this guy basically was like, radical, and he was exactly the dickbag you'd think he was. He became the Oxford Union president, and I'm sure that this guy he'll just scream British aristocratic intellect. Hello, listless, the Islington girl, listless receptionist, office girl. You've had a lot of monikers. You guys with all your monikers, we just Sentient Dildo's been Sentient Dildo from day one. Why don't you take after him? And only that way, please, though. Don't really pick up any of his other characteristics. This dickbag got fired. He lost his job being the Oxford Union president, and then he tried to appeal it, and he lost it. They said no. Based. Good. I thought that was pretty sick. And then conversely, Kristen Chenoweth. Does anyone know who that is? She's like a musical theater weirdo. Not a fan, but oddly enough, in the same vein, her new Broadway show closes prematurely after its A-list star hailed Charlie Kirk in the wake of his assassination. So, wait, this actually might just be... Oh, yeah. Well, that's critics saying it. It could just be a shitty play. Sorry, I didn't read this one. I just snatched the headline and browsed. But it looks like this lady, this thing, she had said something very innocuous. She just said, I'm so upset, didn't always agree with, but appreciate some perspectives. What a heartbreak, his young family. I know where he is now, heaven, but still heartbreak. That was her controversial tweet after Charlie Kirk was publicly assassinated in front of the whole world, and drew all types of criticism for her. But I just thought that was interesting. The two ends of the spectrum about the fallout of Charlie Kirk. Still controversial, still getting people fired. Pretty interesting. What's up, Whitfield? That's right. Damn right, Sammy boy. You have been Whitfield Report for before you came to YouTube. Damn straight. only because I can't top the beauty of my handle. Exactly. I mean, don't change perfection. Don't change perfection. Okay, so this is going to be a little political philosophy. My expertise. This was a video from Mr. Sargon of Akkad, Carl Benjamin. He wrote, he did a video on this subject, and I thought it was really interesting. I thought it was a very compelling video that he put out there. He put it on his main channel, so he really meant it. It tends to be more about like that. Those tend to be the bigger, more not as day to day, not as like current events, like actual like kind of bigger topics. So let's play Mr. Carl Benjamin's video. She looks like a Pez dispenser. She kind of looks like when E.T. dressed up like a girl when they put the dress on E.T. That's not very nice, but it's kind of true. So the name of this video is "The Problem with the Woke Left Isn't the Woke Part." Pretty interesting. Let's hear what Carl Benjamin's got to say.
I thought we'd have a quick chat about the schism on the right, because this whole thing, I think, probably was inevitable and only actually resolves in one way. So you've got people like James Lindsay and the rest of the sort of centre-right types. Joel Berry was on Tim Pool's podcast yesterday discussing this.
Send your dildo. This argument? It's interesting. I hadn't heard it. I thought it was a very interesting perspective. I heard it's so the video I'm working on right now is kind of it's about Nick Fuentes again, but it's kind of more about the media's response to Nick Fuentes and how that's really just driving up his views. I mean, he's more popular than ever. Like, it's very much about the Streisand effect of like chastising Nick Fuentes. It's like that you think that'll work. And like there was this video, this girl, Ricky Schlott, and she's like, parents, you need to know because your boy might be on a Nick Fuentes. I'm like, oh, that's a brilliant strategy. That's what every teenage boy loves. When their mother tells them what to not listen to, then they, of course, they immediately respond with, yep, you got it, mom. That's not going to drive him into it way harder now that he knows mom hates it. It's like, well, now it just got way cooler. Stupids. But he was saying like one of his goals is to raise a political consciousness in his audience. That's something that like one of his goals, one of his stated goals for what he's trying to do. And then Shoe on Head, who's like pretty far from Fuentes on a lot of things. She's like, I guess she's like a democratic socialist, but like kind of like kind of culturally right wing. She's got a unique kind of worldview. She's a national socialist. But no, she said the same thing. She said a similar thing, and this sort of like consciousness. Shu is a Bernie bro. Yeah, no, she's I mean, she makes it pretty clear where she stands, which I like about her because it makes you kind of listen to her. You're like, all right, well, I know you're not trying to deceive me. You're not trying to mislead me with like trying to make me falsely draw my own conclusions. You're explaining what you think. And it's like, okay, I will listen and agree or disagree. And she's also smart. She's pretty based when it comes to like social issues. She's not a crazy delusional leftist. She's a, pretty well-educated like socialist. I don't really agree with her, but I don't mind her takes. I like listening to it. But my point is those two people had a very similar goal, which is to raise like a political consciousness. And I think technically that's what woke is a like a critical consciousness of the society that you live in. It's like a political consciousness. Now, the woke as we understand it is from the sort of critical theory lens, the sort of like race, critical race theory lens, critical feminist theory lens, which is that all of Western society has been designed to serve white men, therefore it's evil. And the system has been designed to hold everyone else down, and we need to disrupt that everywhere we can. But I guess I'll let Carl say what he's going to say.
And they're deeply concerned about something they call the woke right. And I spoke to James about this at the last art conference.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Such a dildo. And I think, you know what? If we're actually talking about a broad consensus of people and I'll just speak for America, I actually think that's most Americans. I actually think if we're going to be completely honest about where, you know, when Barry Weiss is trying to say where 75% of Americans are, God, she's a retard. And then she says, you know how 75% of America long for Walter Cronkite. It's like, how many people in this country even overlapped with his life? I bet it's not even 50. But I think that's actually where most people are in this country, which is why the government keeps getting bigger and, you know, the problems continue to get, you know, expand. But that's actually, I think, where most people are economically left and socially right. I think that that's probably the bulk of the people. Not me, going to be economically right, but my country is collapsing. I mean, yeah, you know, look, I think we should probably be economically right as well. But unfortunately, what economically right has looked like is giant government, but in support of wars for Israel. It's like, well, that sucks too. We don't like that either. And then, you know, the boomer class with, you know, all the like the gigantic healthcare infrastructure that we pay money on. And I saw this chart the other day that showed like the administrative costs just like going huge, and just the amount, like the doctors still like tiny on the bottom. So it's like, it's a grift, man. It's just a scam. But anyway, let's listen to Carl. He's smarter than me.
Right. And he told me that he deliberately used this term frivolously in order to sow discord on the right. Because what's actually happening here is that the Buckleyite libs are reacting to the rise of a new form of ethno-nationalism on the right that resembles, but is not accurate or concurrent to, a sort of degenerated form of Nazism. And they want to make sure their movement isn't caught up with it. And from their perspective...
And that's because whenever there's a nationalist movement with white countries, it's immediately akin to Nazism. Like there's no way that kind of a political movement can rise. Like, you know, if you have a nationalistic view of the United States and, you know, a historically white country, majority white country, or you have a nationalistic German, English, French, whatever, and you're from a white country, immediately the parallels to Nazism will be drawn. There is no way around that. You just have to be like, who gives a shit? Okay, whatever. You're just saying that. Good. Lindsay is such a libtard. Unbelievable libtard. Unbelievable libtard. Like, I cannot believe what a fucking donkey James Lindsay has turned it out to be. I used to love listening to James Lindsay. I was like, because he understood the left really well. Like, he really knew how to dissect them. He knew what they thought, how they thought it. He even started to get into the more like esoteric, like the kind of cult-like thing that they were into, like all that weird mysticism and shit. He was really getting somewhere with that. And then, I don't know, got the call, the check started to roll in, he changed it, and now he just doesn't get anything. He was the one who led this woke right charge that didn't stick, and basically just identified all the idiots on the right who are just, okay, you're blindly pro-Israel. Just say you're blindly pro-Israel instead of calling me woke right. You know, it's just like, okay, like we're not. Why do you think that would have worked, James? Why do you think that would have stuck? We just lived through 10 years of everything being racist, everything being sexist, everything being homophobic. So what, you think now you're calling us woke, right? We're going to what? Overlook the genocide? Shut the fuck up, James. Idiot. Yeah. Carl always says ethnicity is a thing, right? Exactly. If you're a colonial country, ethno-nationalism is just a part of it. Ethno-nationalism is a part of it for everyone. That's a thing. That's a thing that exists. And it only seems to get stomped out in the West. You're allowed to be a, you know, ethno-nationalist in any other part of the world. It's totally fine. Totally cool. Not in the West.
This is understandable. You can see why this is something that bothers them. And they can't just call them Nazis. Because, of course, the left has been crying wolf for many years and made calling someone a Nazi a rather unfashionable thing. And so, with this being passé, they need some new ideological tool in order to stipulate who they're talking about. But the problem is, these people basically aren't woke. It's not that they are woke. What it is that they are self-interested, and they are reacting against a series of power structures that they perceive, and is
Kind of the same thing I was saying about Fuentes and Shu. Just being politically conscious. Yeah. And then some people are rallying around their ethnic identity. Sorry, that cat's out of the bag now. That toothpaste is out of the tube. If everyone else is going to do it, I guess we're doing it too. Like it's one of those things. It's like, people talk about this, but it's like literally, you're coached to not as a white person, you're not supposed to embrace your identity. You're not supposed to think of yourself like in terms of like a white group. You're supposed to adhere to all these laws. You're supposed to be egalitarian and treat people as individuals. And then no other group does that. And then you just like get punished for doing it. You're like, well, I'm going to stop then because it's just serving me poorly. Send your Oh, gee, we see everything through the ethnic lens over here. Race was always more of a U.S. thing that's been spread by the GAE. Yeah, no, it's true, actually. I mean, you think about it, it's like even the term like white is like not accurate. It's European. It's like we're of European descent. We're not like white people didn't just come out of the ground here. We are descendant of Europeans, right? I mean, that's who white people are. And just as blacks, it's like they're of Africa. You know what I mean? It's like, it's just as weird. We cut off the ties, black, white. That's who exists. It's just I think, ethnicity is like really what it's about. But, no. What'd you say, you Nazi? What'd you say? Yeah, exactly, low spec. How dare you? How dare you?
It is in this that James is identifying the wokeness. In discussing this on my Account Daily channel, I offhandedly said, well, the problem with the woke left isn't really the woke part, it's the left part. And I've had this thrown back in my face several times, so I just want to be categoric. That statement is true. That is completely correct, and I stand by it, because actually the problem isn't the woke part, it is the left part, because the left part is what informs the woke part. I will explain, but the people who are reacting to this, they've been primed by James Lindsay and Joel Berry to react to this, are just reacting from ignorance. They just don't know what they're dealing with. However, I do know what they're dealing with, because I spent the last, 7 or 8 years deeply studying left-wing ideology through their primary texts. I would read their university.
I'm just going to pause here real quick because I don't want to get the stream taken down like I did with Tucker Carlson's video. One thing, though, and this is something that I feel is a bit of a blind spot for Carl. It's not to say that he's not based on the subject, but it is something that he avoids quite often, is the fact that, well, Carl, you're leaving out one very particular characteristic of both James and Joel Berry of Babylon Bee, and that's that they're both vehemently pro-Israel. And while they hold that belief, but also pretend to be center right or whatever, those two things are in conflict, because you can't be a nationalist. You cannot be a United States nationalist and believe in United States sovereignty and at the same time completely think that Israel's overstated influence over the United States of America and its entanglements, its military entanglements in all of Israel's endeavors are congruent. They're not. They're like literally they're oil and water. They're like, how do those things mix? They don't. So, and this is something that I've noticed with Carl. He just doesn't touch this subject. And sometimes, every once in a while to his detriment, because it's like he's going to lay out here why exactly it is that the left is the problem with the woke left part. And I think that that's a completely fair argument. But the reason why those two display such cognitive dissonance is because of their unwavering support for Israel. And it's a contradiction. So they're going to dance around it. They're going to say stupid, contradictory things because the two ideas cannot exist at the same time.
University books. I would read the books that they brought to bear on the poor students in the universities to make them into woke leftists. And so I went through all of these. I went through all of the critical theory manuals and like the tomes and the lectures that I had to study. I listened to their thought leaders. And then I also did my philosophy degree, and I also did my master's degree in philosophy studying liberalism. So I have a much better grasp of liberalism and leftism than any of these people who are calling me names. And I am telling you that the only difference, really, apart from the depth of knowledge, but the only real difference between myself and the center-right critics of woke is that I let my attachment to liberalism go. I realized that fundamentally is a teleological ideology that is trying to create something.
I do think that this point is valid as well. I do think that him saying that he's let the actual, like, the concepts, the sort of core philosophical, like the GPU of his political philosophy, he's like reset, he's let go. And I would say it's very arguable and very fair to say that neither Joel Berry nor James Lindsay, nor, look, many people in this country, like, like I said, I give you credit for this, Central Dildo, because you were saying it years ago. But is that most people don't even realize that we're just talking about two different forms of liberalism in this country. We're not really talking about an actual conservatism and liberalism. We're just talking about liberalism and slow liberalism, like slight, somewhat regressive liberal, but they're still based in the same framework. They still share a lot of the same ideological branches. And Carl has just extricated that part from him. And those other two have not. So he's right.
And so I can approach this subject without moral investment, without emotional investment in it, because James Lindsay and Joel Berry are trying to defend liberalism. And frankly, I think that that's where the problem lies. Woke itself is actually not the issue. Woke is what we colloquially call intersectionality, which is actually a descriptive framework that identifies the different intersections of where certain identities, and they're picked by the woke leftists themselves, but you could apply this to any identity you like, where they intersect in a social manner. This highlighting of the interaction between personal identities and people purports to describe how wider society is construed. Woke, then, is actually a tool developed by the communists to identify those points of weakness in the hierarchy of society, so they could, in Gramscian fashion, formulate their arguments to further tear them down, to further equalize society. The issue is not actually that identification, because the identification of the structures of society is something that anyone can do. And
so I remember, in fact, like Carl even made a similar argument about about Karl Marx, I don't know, last year or something. And just pointing out that he's not entirely wrong. It's like this sort of liberal capitalist society is going to lead to these certain conclusions, and you can just see it, in our life, because of its very nature. It's just that Karl Marx's solutions are retarded and anti-human, but it doesn't mean that the criticism was inaccurate, right? It's like, look, I think a great example is Black people in this country. I think that they are on a lower socioeconomic position and are worse off in this country by design. I just think they have a different, they just falsely identify whose design it is. They think it's white racist. They think it's, like the conservative, like the, white people who probably don't want to live in a Black neighborhood and have like problems with like kind of Black culture. But it isn't. It's actually, it's their saviors. It's like the white liberals who designed a welfare system that basically trapped that population in that situation for 60 years. So it's like, it really, like, they're not wrong in the sense that there is something structurally wrong with the system that is specifically disadvantaging them. They just are identifying who's doing it incorrectly. They're just drawing the wrong conclusions about why. And, they're being led to that conclusion by race grifters and people who want to maintain those statuses for whatever nefarious reasons, whether to just keep them in there, to keep them as a voting block, or to profit from it, or who knows why. But they're not wrong. There is a structural inequality, and it's just that they've been kept in this sort of like serfdom, manufactured by a welfare state. It's like, yeah, you're right. Like, the society is designed inversely for you by the people you keep voting for. That's actually who's doing it to you. Central Mark had many of the same critiques as conservatives at the time. Proposed solutions were very different. Yeah, quite. I don't know what the conservatives at the time would have suggested. Probably, I would assume, more Christianity. But yeah, no, I mean, Marx's ideas were quite novel, and they were bad. That was what was so annoying when I started off this podcast. And I was listening to those two fucking socialists talk, and I'm like, are you in 2025? Are we really still trying to make the argument for socialism? Which I guess, which is so stupid, because you just look at the massive government that this country has. We're like basically socialists, we're bad socialists. And like, in the sense that our services aren't even good, like the European services are, but we also don't tax to the level that we can pay for them. So we just are printing, borrowing, spending into the ruin of this country. So it's like, sometimes you're just like, well, look, maybe if we are going to spend all the money, can we spend it on the people that live here and provide them with the services? I don't want that. I want to kind of get rid of all of it. But if we're going to spend the trillions of dollars, could it please make my life better and not worse? Maybe, possibly. Matt, read the title of this book. I feel like this could be a troll, sentient dildo. Oh, okay, it's not. Left-wing communism, an infantile disorder. Nice. And an attempt at popular discussion on Marxist strategy and tactics. Vladimir Lenin? It says V.I. Lenin. Is that Vladimir Lenin? By Lenin. Yeah, audiobook, 1920. So was Lenin, are there people out there that think that his version of communism would have been good? Or like, what's the implication of that? Just that he's an idiot, or that he didn't realize that he was? I mean, I love the name of it, but what does that say about Lenin? I mean, wasn't he the one who led the revolution and destroyed Russia? Right? I don't know. Let's listen to a little bit more, Carl. Little CB. There we go.
Honestly, if you want to have a proper understanding of society, you kind of do need to do that. And if you don't do that, what you're actually doing is rendering yourself willfully blind. I mean, one of the criticisms the woke left have of the sort of center-right liberals is actually the liberal mysticism that I've been talking about, that it deliberately obscures things that are otherwise true about society. The woke left doesn't have a monopoly on identifying power dynamics. They just have a very easy to use tool and framework with which to do it.
And infantile disorder is a great name. What's his name? Dave Smith did a great job. There was like one of those, what do they call them? Jubilee. One of those ridiculously gimmicky like debate circles, where it's like 10 communists versus 1 capitalist or something retarded, but this girl, like, it was like, it's just so funny, like how quickly you can just logically conclude how communism will require violence to enforce its rules. Like, it's just, as soon as she was like, what do you, the guy asked her, what's your ideal of communism? And she goes, a classless, borderless, currencyless society. And it's just like, Dave just walks through real quick. He was just like, okay, so what happens if me, and I'm a farmer, I grow hay, this other guy grows pigs, and this guy over here, he grows green beans or whatever. And we want to trade these things. But once we realize it's kind of hard to figure out that always to how much green beans, we just kind of come up with our own currency to just sort of trade and make it easier to like buy these goods from one another. It's just like the second we do that, we've broken the law of the communist government, because now we have a currency and we're trading currency. Well, what are you going to do? You're going to have to enforce that. You're going to have to enforce that we can't do that with what violence, right? I mean, how else do you get us to stop? You got to use some kind of violence. And then who does that? What group of people do that? Are they appointed by the state? Well, now they've become their own class of law enforcement. It was like, it took him like 30 seconds to just dismantle this girl's entire worldview. And it's just like, I just can't, it blows my mind the way people still believe in socialism. Michael, I don't know if he's still here. He still kind of believes in it, you know? And I'm like, I'm sick of like being like, you're an idiot. So I literally just posited it to him, because it's like basically socialists are just sort of like, I think, I'm trying to be charitable here, but I think what they think is that if you provide all people's basic needs, right, then things will be much more peaceful, and things will be better. Now, I don't actually agree with that. I think that's a false conclusion, because I think, you know, your needs, if they're just given to you and you don't value them, you don't value the work that went into them, you know, you don't appreciate them, you take them for granted, and you feel entitled to them. You feel like that's why they call them entitlements. You just feel like, oh, they're owed for you. But then I went on, I was like, okay, whatever. Well, I'm not even going to argue that. I'm going to say, hey, what's up, Mike? I said to him, I was like, well, what do you do about brain surgeons? You know, like, how do you create an incentive structure inside of the framework of socialism that's strong enough for someone to spend 10 years of their life going to college and educated and learning all the skills and differences to become a brain surgeon? Like, how do you do that? Like, how does socialism incentivize anyone to do that? Because why would you? And furthermore, what do you do? Like, companies use their profit for R&D to invent new technologies and get better and design. Like, if you look at the United States, you know, as shitty as our healthcare system is, we are still the #1 innovator of medical technology in the world, because our companies have profit incentives. So there's an incentive to go into business to develop that and to make a better product and to make more profit and to give it to your shareholders and for more R&D. Like, there's a system that allows that type of innovation to exist. But like the socialists, like it's like they never account for that. You're just like, oh, it'll all work out. It's like, how? Like, why would people do things? I mean, why would someone even go to work? Like, if I'm just entitled to the things that I'm entitled to, it's just like, well, what if I don't feel like contributing? What if I just want to sit home and play Xbox all day? If all my needs are met, then there's no incentive for me to even contribute to the economy. I mean, there's some people will, some people won't. They never have answers for stuff like this. They're always just like, you know, they just brush that away. It's like somehow the utopia like comes through the void, and we all just get all these things somehow. And then it's just like, well, then how does society continue to function? It's like it can't. It literally can't. Yeah, there are so many factions of commies that have aggressive disagreements with one another. Yeah, and they're all wrong. No, I mean, look, I'm sure there's certain things they can be right about, you know, but I don't know, because it's like there's certain things like, okay, Europe talks about public transportation, like rail transportation, right? And how good it is and how cheap it is, right? It's like, well, it isn't though. Like, it may actually practically for the residents be that way. But what happened with a lot of these rail companies is they purchased England. In fact, Carl Benjamin has talked about this. They purchased like England's like rail systems, and they collect the profit from that. They do not improve. They provide very shit service for the English rail systems, and they just take all that extra money and put it into the Italian or whatever country's like rail system. So that those are brilliant. And they run great and they're clean, but it's not a normal, typical, profitable model, because it's like it's falsely subsidized by their purchase of like the English rail model, right? So that's not even really working. Like, you're stealing the capital to make yours better, leaving someone else worse. It's like that's not a good solution either. The profit incentive is not confined to a capitalist framework. but it is like, because the social, I think the social, yeah, and you can't even talk back, bitch. Normally he's interrupting me when we have these conversations, but I think it is actually, because a lot of the socialist countries that work, right? Like, well, they have a lot of other factors that allow them to do that, right? Like, if all those Scandinavian countries had to pay for their own self-defense, like if they had to arm and man navies and armies and, air force enough to keep themselves safe from, some kind of global power or something like that, it's like, you're not going to have all this leftover money for all your free university and your free, excuse me, your free healthcare and your great public transportation and all that stuff. And like, also, these are typically homogenous societies where there isn't like a lot of rife dissension amongst the people. There's a lot of kind of community understanding, and there's sort of a sharing, like, where we feel like we're all one. We feel like we are a community of Norwegians. We're a community of Danes. Like, we have this sort of in common. And that's actually all breaking down pretty dramatically. A lot of these European countries are becoming insolvent because they had like those ridiculous immigration policies. And the second that sort of balance was thrown out, where you have all these takers essentially who come into your system and just take like the resources and don't contribute it, all of a sudden they're dried up. Like Carl talks all the time about England and how much the DHS, I think it's like they're like healthcare is fucked, because it's just, they've let in so many refugees and they are broke, and those people are just they're just giving more and more money to them, billions and billions and billions. And now it's like, even the people who live in these countries like do not have access to the things that like they want. And still, the United States medical innovation, they are relying on a lot of that. They purchase these products, they purchase these drugs, they purchase these medical equipment that was innovated in a different system. It's like, yeah, I guess your socialism can work if we prop your system up, but it doesn't stand on its own. A lot of profit-seeking firms pour money into public goods, but overwhelmingly focus on rent-seeking, planned obsolescence, all addictive products. That's true. Look, I'm not saying capitalism is perfect, and certainly the version of capitalism we have now is definitely not perfect. But I think philosophically, you have to just accept that those principles win out. They're more practical. Oh, look, here we go. I'm getting walls of text. Send your dildo. Now you know what it's like to be friends with Mike. This is what it's like. You say one thing, and then my phone just it goes on his little tangents. Just start your own podcast. Send your dildo. Norway has plenty of money for its defense. They have oil, minerals, gas, etc., and they invested that money in a lot of shit through their government investment fund. Maybe Norway was the bad example, but I don't know. Look, it just doesn't seem to make any. It just doesn't seem to play out. I don't know. Michael, the accumulated profit is overwhelmingly funneled into monopolizing people's attention instead of useful resources to improve living conditions. I mean, look, that's true and it isn't. That's true and it isn't. Like, no, I know. That's what but I was using those examples as like the most closest socialist, examples that actually worked, because no actual true socialist countries ever worked. That's true and it isn't, Michael. We say that, but airlines have never been safer, right? People's like life expectancy has never been longer, or has never been longer. Like, our transportation, like our automobile access is like incredible. Like, just look at our technology. It's like things do get better. Yes, there are predatory industries and there are predatory, capitalist pigs. Of course there are. But alongside that, a lot of different things have improved. Like I said, like when I went to the dentist, like I had some gingivitis and the woman cleaned my gums with a fucking laser. It's like, whoa, we've made some innovations. And like consumer products. I mean, just look at like there's a consumer product solution for every single problem you could have, and that is delivered to your house instantly. That is incredible innovation, and that is abundance in a manner that no prior generation could even conceive of. And we live in that, like, that abundance, you know. It's like, that doesn't make things right. I'm not saying that fixes everything, but those are serious things to value that, like, this society has accomplished. One thing you're right about, though, those countries worked because they were ethnically homogenous. I knew I was right about something. I had to be right about something, and it was racism. Stick to your guns, Matt. Stick to your guns. Oh boy, see? All right, no, enough of you. I'm putting the proverbial phone down, Mike.
Which is why there are so many woke leftists constantly making power critiques about society. But like I said, the issue is actually not that they have a descriptive lens to explain what society is actually like. The issue is the normative framework that instructs a person on what to do with that information. Woke, as in intersectionality itself, cannot actually command what ought to be done with the information that it provides. That actually does have to come from outside of intersectionality. And because the framework...
All right, I'm bored with this. It's a good video to go watch on your own. I'm done. I love Carl, but I don't really have enough to talk on, so we're just watching his video. Do you guys like my Christmas decorations? There's more to come. Get ready for next week. It's going to be even Christmasier than it is now, currently, presently. All right, well, that's going to wrap it up. Thanks for watching this week's episode of the Mfer podcast. You've been a fantastic audience. You guys are great. Mike, Sentient Dildo, everyone who was hanging around, E. Clay Thomason, Islington Girl, Low Spec, you're all great people. Fantastic human beings, individuals. Menches, all of you. Menches, love it. I'm going to send you guys over to Leon. Make sure you harass him. I think he's still alive. If he is, let him know. John Wick sucks. And I'll see you guys all next week. All right? Have a fantastic freaking evening there. All right, toodaloo.